7 have gone to Jim Richards. The final one goes to this man's teammate, Tim Lay.
Tim, you've been trying all year. Finally, you've cracked it for a pole position. Well done.
Absolutely, mate. It only took us 10 rounds, but we finally got there. But we're in some pretty good company, and you know, the car's been very good in the heat. But unfortunately, in qualifying here, there's only a small window because it's so hot. You only get 1 or 2 laps, and then the tyres go off. So it should be an interesting race because everyone's there. So it'll be a good race. Looking forward to it.
That, incidentally, is the first pole position for the Greg Murphy Racing Team Brawn outfit. They dominate the front row. Lay and Alex Davison working toward turn 1 for the first time. Ironically, it was Lay who was instrumental in getting Davison into this second car. Ordinarily, it's campaigned by Peter Hill, but Peter's stepped aside to run in Formula 4000 for their final round, and that gave Alex Davison a chance. So the former buddies pitted together. Dramas here, I think, for Tony Quinn in the VIP Bedfords Porsche. He's in all sorts of trouble. Brad Jones.
No one has hit him. It's not often that you can have a spin in the middle of the pack there, get out of it, and continue on without a mark on your car. Very lucky man.
There's a decent bump as they come across that rise there and work down in toward turn 4, and it's really accentuated in these cars with their stiff suspension, isn't it?
That's right, and it lifts the car off the ground, so when you go to brake, the car's actually drifting back down onto the ground to make contact on the tar. So you really have a lot of trouble pulling the car up at that point.
Kevin Bell is in the mix there, the Kiwi. There's John Tulin, who had a fantastic weekend at the 24-hour endurance event at Bathurst just a week ago on the podium in that particular car. Lexmark coming on as a sponsor for Matthew Coleman. Let's take a look here at what happened to Tony Quinn. Was there contact with Dean Cook, maybe?
Looked like there was just a very slight touch, but that's all you need at that point to get you out on the dirt, and then you're in real trouble.
Chris Seidler and Dr. Roger Oakeshott have to take evasive action. A replay of the start from Marcus Marshall. Look at the way Coleman stormed through. Here comes Jonathan Webb as well.
Not a great start for Marcus, and you can see from the way the dog's shaking its head, he wasn't that happy either.
Now, this is the fight back trail. As he tries to recover that spot that he lost to Jonathan Webb. Webb's hanging out wide here. Big lunge under brakes as they go down into turn 1. That's, I guess, just bravery there. Bradman, maybe a bit too much on Marshall's behalf. An uncharacteristic runoff from Marcus Marshall.
Exactly right. I'd like to see that from the outside. It just didn't look quite right. I don't know if they had some contact or he had a bit of an understeer at that point, but there was just something that wasn't quite right when that car went off the road there.
He has lost an enormous amount of track position as a result. Let's not forget, he's second in the series standings right now, Marcus Marshall, and Peter Fitzgerald can challenge him for that spot. So this is not ideal for him in the championship hunt right now.
And he was going so strongly that wouldn't have entered his mind at all. But now he'd be starting to think about that second place because he does need to get a reasonable result to make sure that he finishes second in the championship. And now he'll be charging hard.
Gets back to 18th spot, moving around Roger Oakeshott. Here's another look through the fast-flowing turn 1, out wide and in the marbles.
Yeah, there's just something right at the start of that. You had a look, the car shook its head a little bit. Maybe the back had stepped out and he steered a little bit to correct it, and he had to steer to the right, and that's what took him off the road.
On board now with Alex Davison in the Greg Murphy Racing Brawn entry. Terrific shot as you look from the left-hand side of these beautiful Porsche 911 GT3s. Jim Richards, as you can see, has snatched that second spot away from Alex Davison, and right now he's zeroing in on Tim Lay. They work down the front straight.
And Alex has got a lot of experience with these cars. I'm sure he's helped them with the setup. He would have brought some information with him. But Richo, what can you say about the man? He's done a fantastic job like he always does, and he's on a hunt to the front. Russell
Wright, who is one of the 2 cars campaigning all season long for Team Terrier, along with Jack Crocker. He's watching this one, unfortunately, from Westmead Hospital in Sydney after a massive crash on the front straight during qualifying. Had some small fractures to the base of his skull, but will make a full recovery, the doctors say. So Jack Crocker also, unfortunately, withdrawing for the weekend as well. Richards here in the OAMPS Porsche Series champion, but I guess really feeling the pressure here. Davison has given this series a whole new dose of intensity since he's arrived back in Australia, hasn't he?
Well, he certainly has. He's in amongst the front guys, and Tim is doing a very good job. It's not easy to lead a race when you've got a bloke with the experience that Jim Richards has got. and he's climbing all over you. You really need to not spend too much time looking in the mirror trying to work out where he is. What you need to do is look 2 or 3 times during a lap where you think you're weak and he's strong, see if he's closing in on you, and make the adjustments to your driving style you need to stay where you are. Alex looks very comfortable in that car. He's the fastest man on the track at the moment. He's closing in on the front too, and it just looks very, very natural for him at the moment.
Just returned from Germany, his 4th season in the Carrera Cup. He's also been making some appearances in the GT sports cars for PK Sport in the American Le Mans Series. And as Brad mentioned, just looks really at home in the 911 GT3. Lay starting to feel the pressure from Jim Richards as they work into turn 1. A couple of firsts in this race, particularly in terms of qualifying. The first time all season that Jim Richards has not started a race from the front row, and the first time that teammates have shared the front row. Lay in trouble.
Well, that's, what can I say? He's just got in there and he's turned in, the back stepped out a little bit, and before you know it, it's gotten away from him. He'd be very, very disappointed. Jimmy was certainly very close to him, but I don't think there was any contact there. The back's just stepped out and it's gone away from him, and he's dropped back through the field. He'd be very, very angry with himself at the moment. Now he needs to get his head down, not think about it.
Let's have a closer look at this on the trackside replay. No touch.
No, I think it's certainly in the early part of the corner. It looked like he's got a fair bit of his braking done. Maybe he's just picked up the throttle a fraction too early. He's off the brakes here, as you can see. Picked up the throttle a fraction too early. The back of the car stepped out, gotten away from him. And really, Jim and Alex have done a good job to miss contact with him to get around that incident and continue on with the race.
Lightning reflexes from Jim Richards. Here's Clark Quinn. Pint-sized pocket rocket. Look how close he sits to the wheel. Has made a fantastic step up from Aussie racing cars to this category. And a big talent. A lot of people with their eye on Clark Quinn. We'll take a break here on trackside. Jim Richards leads the way in the final round. More on the other side of this. This is the final round of the Carrera Cup for 2003. You're watching trackside on your home of motorsport. Jim Richards, the newly crowned series champion, leads the way in this one. But Alex Davison, who started the year in Carrera Cup here in Australia in the demonstration races at the Formula One Grand Prix in Melbourne, is back to contest the final round and banking some serious lap times based on what we just saw, Brad.
He continually breaks the lap record and he's doing a good job. We're looking at Marcus here trying to work his way back to the field. There's one.
Dean Grant. He's a publican from Melbourne and has been very consistent all year in that car. He's always hovering around the top 10, but Marshall, we know, is on a real mission here. Dean Cook is the next man as they come over that rise. You see the way the car bounced there. Brad mentioned it earlier, how it really is accentuated across the top of that bump. Now he's by Dean Cook.
And you really have to be committed to get up the inside of people like that through that tight section around the back of the circuit. The passing manoeuvres need to be clean and hard. This is a fantastic shot of Marcus at work. It's a very menacing shot, and you can see how hard he's concentrating and trying to get the job done.
Jeff Morgan up ahead of him by the looks of things, former Australian Porsche Cup champion. So Marshall perhaps looking for the over and under treatment here. Incidentally, the pole time for this round, 0.7 of a second slower than the last visit that the cars had here earlier in the year. And I think that would have a lot to do, Brad, with temperature. It's enormously warmer at this time of year. Jeff Morgan in trouble there, and he really, I guess, was just pressured into that moment by Marshall. He knew he was coming on strong.
He was. Marcus was all over him, and he just had to really try a little bit harder and got away from him on those loose marbles on the outside.
Davison again, another fast one, a 1:35. By comparison to a V8 supercar lap time, it's a couple of seconds off it, but still enormously fast.
Oh, it's very fast in these cars. If we have a look at Jeff Morgan, as you can see, he's just got out a little bit wide there. It's the same old story. Picked the throttle up probably a bit early. The back of the car's already sliding. The minute that it breaks traction, around it goes.
Jeff, I think, has found it, probably by his own admission, a little tougher in Carrera Cup this year than he perhaps expected. He's been a former Australian Porsche Cup champion, but the advent of this series, it's less than 12 months old now, has just been incredible, and there are some real young stars in it, and the quality of the competition is just incredible, as you're seeing right now. Jonathan Webb, Rookie of the Year last season in Porsche Cup, absolutely menacing. Kevin Bell, the fast Kiwi who drives for Lyle Williamson's International Motorsport team. They had a pretty busy time on their hands. Tony Quinn loops it at the exit of turn 2, so he's got all that work to do again. John Tulin comes through. There's Chris Seidler as well in the Seidler Homes entry. So the VIP Pet Foods entry looks like it's losing a bit of coolant too, and that could be terminal.
I'd say so. It's a bit of a knock on the front of the car. We can see there the right side of it's hanging down on the ground, and not only will that be expensive, but if that is coolant leaking out of it, it'll stop him pretty soon.
Back aboard with Alex Davison as he chases Jim Richards out of turn 12. This is the Greg Murphy Racing Team's strongest appearance of the season. Davison has really pushed his good buddy Tim Lay and raised the bar, I guess, in some ways. This has been good for this team. They've won a round. They won the Darwin round, but they've never had a pole position. That's changed here, and they've yet to win a race in this series as well.
And you see the back of Jim's car just step out there, and a little bit of contact as Alex comes down the inside. That's commitment. That's
a gutsy move there by Alex Davison, and all his experience in the cut and thrust of the German series coming to the fore there.
Well, I tell you, he's had a bit of contact like that before. That started through turn 1. Jim Richards' car just stepped out a little bit and opened a gap, and that allowed Alex to drive into it. And then Richo tried to shut the door, but Alex was already coming at him. Fantastic move. Very, very hard racing, and that's the sort of thing we've become accustomed to in this Carrera Cup.
Word from the officials is that Peter Fitzgerald has been handed a drive-through penalty after they've reviewed his start, a jump start for Fitzgerald. He's just completed that drive-through. Look at Richards'
car just jumped there, and that was enough for Alex. He's down the inside. Richo's pulling over. They're both hard on the brakes. Alex is going through. They're going to make contact. There's a little bit of a rub. They both move over. Very, very hard, but fair move.
Clark Quinn, only his 4th round ever in the Carrera Cup as he tries to find a way past Jonathan Webb, who's using some extraordinary lines here, not orthodox at all.
Well, these three are going at it really, really hard, and he's over on the inside now. We can't see him trying to block Clark out coming down into turn 1. We'll see who's got the stronger car in a moment. And it's Clark Quinn. He's pulled that move off. He's got around the outside of Jonathan Webb. There we see him behind us now.
Look who is on the move in the background here. Big lunge under brakes. Opts for a very different line. That's Tim Lay. Remember, he lost the race lead right at this point. Turn 2, got a little over-anxious on the throttle. The back end stepped out and it cost him the race lead. So he's on the fight back and doing a great job.
And he'll want to get by these guys as quickly as he can so he can get a better starting position for the next race, so he can hopefully leapfrog up towards the front guys and be in the race. Incredible
times being set by Alex Davison, a 1 minute 35.923. That was on the 6th lap of this race, and that is a new lap record. As Brad Jones pointed out, here's Clark Quinn, the view looking back on the Techno Auto Sports entry. Jonathan Webb, Matthew Coleman. He's had a good, strong run here at Eastern Creek in the Lexmark Porsche. You'll recall some rounds back was involved in that horrific rollover with Marcus Marshall at Sandown, and what a comeback from him. He returned at Bathurst with a brand new chassis and lots of confidence from his run at IndyCar on the Gold Coast, and having a terrific drive here at the moment. Richards unable to wrestle that position away from Alex Davison. This is going to be the first ever race win, unless Richards can find some way by him. The first ever race win for the Greg Murphy Racing Brawn team. Out of turn 12 for the final time. Richards doesn't look close enough. He will be in the slipstream. But Alex Davison takes out the opening race in the final round of Carrera Cup. And what a race win it is too. Excellent performance. Kevin Murphy and the team would be delighted with that.
And it's not over yet. Here's Tim Lay having a lunge at Clark Quinn on the last corner.
He's gotten by Jonathan Webb, who's in all sorts of trouble there. Oh, and a touch. Tim Lay muscles his way past Clark Quinn. Now Webb senses an opportunity too. He's not going to be close enough as they get over the finish line. Clark Quinn hanging on just to that spot, but what a fight back from Tim Lay, chasing Kevin Bell across the line, and there's Marcus Marshall finishing in 8th spot.
Alex Jim Richards has made one mistake all year. Today it was a small one, but gee, you made him pay.
Well, most of the race he was making me pay. It was really, really difficult to stay close enough to him to have a lunge. And I knew through turn 1, every lap I was a little bit faster and was able to get a bit of a run on him. So it was just a matter of staying close enough onto the main straight, so I'd be close enough after turn 1 to to try and overtake him, but he definitely didn't make it easy for me, and maybe my thoughts